What is up, everybody? It is your girl Lala here. I'm with Carmen JC. We are going to be covering the Epstein files. This is crazy, and it's been a long time coming. Last Friday, the DOJ released 3.5 million documents in compliance with the Epstein File Transparency Act that was initiated by Congressman Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna. This comes after attempts from Pam Bondi's DOJ to bury the existence of the files, with both Kash Patel and Donald Trump saying at different times last year that the files don't even exist and that we should just move on.
I think it's really time for the country to get onto something else, really. Now that nothing came out about me, other than it was a conspiracy against me, literally, by Epstein and other people. But I think it's time now for the country to maybe get onto something else.
And, the American people don't want to move on at all. And they're holding Kash and Donald Trump's feet to the fire. I want to bring your attention to this clip from last year of Kash Patel, who's testifying in front of the Senate Oversight Committee. And he says that the files don't exist and that if they did exist, that he would make them public. Take a look at this.
Out of time. You've seen most of the files. Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself?
Himself. There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one?
For the information that we have.
In the files?
In the case file.
Okay.
Yes, so that's Kash Patel testifying, saying that if he had the files, that he would make them public, that he would prosecute, but he had the files the entire time because these came out of the DOJ. And of course, they've transcended different administrations, but it's interesting that him, Pam Bondi, even Trump are trying to just obfuscate and pretend like they don't even exist. Here is another clip of Trump last summer saying that we need to move on, and surprised that we're still talking about Jeffrey Epstein. Take a look at this.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
Yeah, so that's our president asking, why is America so concerned that the American people care about Jeffrey Epstein? Carmen, what is your take on this? Like, what do you have to say, about our president and our FBI, their response to this Jeffrey Epstein scandal?
So I would say, obviously, there is something big going on when you have to tell lies in order to try to make it go away. And what I'm noticing is that, it's not about like the truth anymore, right? It's about who can control the narrative. And that's what we're essentially seeing when it comes to these files, because there's a lot of alarming things that are in the files. And me personally, like I know personally, it's pretty much impossible for one person to go through all of these files in a short period of time. It's going to take you a lot of time to go through every file, and they know that. And I think that they did this thing where they dumped in a bunch of stuff that is useless, right? A bunch of stuff that is just like provocative, but really, it is really like probably not factual, right? Just to kind of throw people off. So I think really they don't want us to look at the files because a lot of people are obviously implicated in wrongdoing. Okay. And then even Donald Trump name is mentioned a lot in the files. So I think that because this goes so high up, like the idea that the police investigate like politicians or people that are high up, it's almost comical. Okay, I'm at the point where I think the only time they do investigate is when someone is not willing to do something that they wanted them to do, like a blackmail thing. And if they don't do this thing, then they're like, we're going to investigate you for this, and then they pursue charges against that person, then probably eventually lock them up. But this is why you don't see any accountability within our government, because these people all work together. I'm sorry to say this, they all work together. And even if you are left or right, you have to understand, even in Congress, these are coworkers. they're coworkers. And the fact that you have like people like Thomas Massey that are going out, and trying to get to the bottom. I really don't even know, even with Thomas Massey, because it's like they'll come out and they'll say, like, oh, I got 6 new names. And then they'll name one person, but then they'll keep it secretive. The victims will come out and they'll say, oh, we're going to name our accusers, but they never name their accusers. And then they say they're hiding the victims' names, but the victims keep coming out to show their faces. So it's just all like a bunch of like back and forth crap is what I see. And honestly, I think that people should use the files to kind of put the pieces together. Like, even if you can't find a slam dunk in the files, maybe there are other things that would make sense as to why we are where we are. Start connecting dots, you know,
Yeah.
from the files.
Well, I think that there's one part where there is a lot of sexual allegations of like depravity, and those people's names are being redacted. And part of the Transparency Act is that they're not redacted. And this is why we have Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna coming out and saying, that they had gone in, that they had seen the files. Some of them were still redacted, but even to them, members of Congress, they're still getting redacted files, even going in private session to see these. And I have a clip here from Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna, who are speaking after they went in and saw these files, and they're saying that the DOJ is still not compliant. So they're actively involved in a cover-up, and it's actually kind of jarring and shocking because Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna said after that they reviewed some of the files that there were 6 names, like you just said, that could be implicated in criminal charges. Take a look.
That bothered me were the names of at least 6 men that have been redacted that are likely incriminated by their inclusion in these files. So that's the first thing that I saw. It took some digging to find them. Then I'll let you talk about what you saw.
Well, and we discussed that. I mean, there are 6 men, some of them with their photographs that have been redacted, and there's no explanation why those people were redacted. And Thomas discovered it through his MIT logic with some of the searches. But, that's really concerning. I think there are 2 other points. One is some of the internet concern about some of the more sensational emails. I mean, I do think it's important to recognize that some of the senders on that are women. And so some of the redactions may be appropriate, some may not be appropriate. We need to look at that. But just because there's an email out there, it doesn't mean that there's necessarily an improper redaction. The bigger concern is these 6 individuals.
So there they are saying that there's 6 other individuals that they could identify just from the limited time that they were in there reviewing the redacted forms that need to be prosecuted. So here we have a sitting president whose friends, Howard Lutnick, is even like implicated. It's just straight out. He testified today, I believe, and he said that he brought his whole family, including his nannies and his children, to Epstein Island.
You led people to believe that you had cut off all contact with Jeffrey Epstein after the 2005 encounter you and your wife had in his apartment. But as I'm sure you know, the Epstein files show a very different record of interaction. Why did the Epstein files show you coordinating a meeting and planning a visit with Jeffrey Epstein on his private island in December 2012?
Thank you for the question. I'm glad to be here to make it clear that I met Jeffrey Epstein when I moved to a house next door to him in New York, right? And I met him then. Over the next 14 years, I met him 2 other times that I can recall, 2 times, and that is none for 6 years. I did not have any relationship with him. I barely had anything to do with that person, okay?
Secretary Lutnick, I think you understand the root of concern here. It's the way you described very emphatically your first encounter with him in his apartment, said you were disgusted, would never have any contact with him again. Did you, in fact, make the visit to Jeffrey Epstein's private island?
I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation. My wife was with me, as were my 4 children and nannies. I had another couple they were there as well with their children, and we had lunch on the island.
This is Trump's Secretary of Commerce. He's the one that's behind all of these tariffs. I mean, it's crazy that even at the highest levels that these people are, associating with Epstein. They lied to the American public, said that they had nothing to do with Epstein whatsoever. And now we see that actually you lied. You totally misrepresented, Howard Lutnick totally misrepresented his relationship with Epstein. And now it comes out that he and his family visited there. Where do we go from here, Carmen, like when it comes to our society? Because the more and more we learn about these Epstein files, the more we could see that it's not even just the trafficking, it's also the social engineering that I want to get into a little bit later. But like, what's your take just in what you saw about Thomas Massey and Donald Trump?
I think that what's important is for when people are like, because I was listening to, I think Ian Carroll, he broke this down pretty well on Tucker Carlson, and he was talking about how people are putting fake information out there. And, we have AI now, so it gets hard to decipher between what's real and what's not real. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that is important for us to realize that, we have to not put out fake information because it plays to their benefit when we are putting photoshopping photos of Jeffrey Epstein, maybe. That does not help us get to the bottom of what happened, because it's more than depravity, because these people are cannibalists. Okay, they're ritualistic, they're demonic. And I think that it's kind of scary for a lot of people. That's what I think. And maybe that's why Donald Trump is saying, like, guys, just move on, because of how dark it is. And a lot of people, like, they don't want to face the darkness.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching our video. If you like what you saw there, make sure you hit the subscribe button. It really helps our channel grow, and we really appreciate all the support.